It is one of Court TV's most legendary trials. The Menendez brothers, Lyle and Eric, in 1989, their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, were murdered. It was a shocking crime scene that looked like a mob hit. Jose and Kitty were shot several times as they sat on their couch, eating ice cream and watching a movie. At first, Eric and Lyle were treated as victims, but when their therapist's ex-girlfriend came forward with information that the brothers had confessed during therapy sessions, everything changed. Eventually, the brothers were charged. At trial, they claimed to be the victims of sex abuse and violence. The first juries could not reach a unanimous verdict, and there was a mistrial. But when they were retried, they were convicted and sentenced to life without parole. But now there is new attention on the case, and many are calling for the Menendez brothers to get out. And this Monday, they head back to court. Will the judge set the Menendez brothers free? We'll break it down. But first, on December 27th, 2022, 24-year-old Brian Camp was home asleep with his girlfriend Brooke Janik and their 2 young children. While they slept, 27-year-old Jonathan Latender broke into the home. He is Brooke's ex-boyfriend. Jonathan attacked Brian. Brooke woke up, called 911. The men continued to fight. Then a gunshot goes off. Jonathan, the intruder, is struck. Meanwhile, the 911 call continues and records everything that happens, including a second gunshot 8.5 minutes later. That second shot takes the life of Jonathan. After law enforcement responds and investigates this fatal shooting, Brian Camp is charged with manslaughter. Prosecutors claim the first gunshot was justifiable and was self-defense, but they say the second gunshot more than 8 minutes later was homicide. Tonight, we take a close look at Brian Camp on the witness stand, testifying in his own defense. What does his body language say? Will the jury believe him? Tonight, all the latest details from inside the courtroom. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you with us on this Friday night. And let's talk about a couple of big concepts. Big concepts relative to the case against Brian Camp. And it starts with, I remember when this all happened, people were attacking the state of Florida with their stand your ground laws. Well, the point of stand your ground in Florida was to protect people who did nothing wrong, to protect people who were victimized. Particularly like you're in your house, someone breaks in and is trying to kill you, and you take them out, or you cause them great bodily harm. It shields you from criminal prosecution and from civil lawsuits. Because let me tell you what was happening. It might sound crazy, but this was actually happening. People were breaking into other people's homes, then like slipping and falling in the home that they broke into, and then suing the homeowner. Yeah, it actually happened, folks. And it was cases like that and situations where people had to be dragged into court to defend themselves, whether it's civilly or criminally, for standing your ground, defending yourself from being victimized. Okay, that's the whole point of stand your ground. And it really grew out of the castle doctrine, which is talking about when you're in your house, your castle, right? And there's a home intruder, you have the right to take them out, period. Okay? They break into your home, they are taking their lives in their own hands. And the purpose of stand your ground was to take that concept and move it out of the house into other places where you lawfully are. But in the case we're talking about here, it's actually in the house. And if you're in the house with your family, and I'm protecting my family, that's what this is all about. And that's what's happening in the case of Brian Camp. He's home with his girlfriend, the kids are there, and someone breaks in. And the person who breaks in is not breaking in, and even if they're just breaking in to steal stuff, they still take their lives into their own hands. But he was breaking in to commit assaults and potentially murder. That was the whole point of him breaking in. He's a jealous ex-boyfriend, out of his mind, out of control. And that's what Brian Kemp had to deal with. And now he, because we're not in Florida, we're up in Massachusetts, the DA has discretion, and this DA believes it's a homicide. He believes this person should become a convicted felon and likely spend years in prison after someone broke into his house attempting to kill him. Into the house where he was with his girlfriend, into the house where there were young children. In the middle of the night. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but ultimately, the jury, they will decide this. And that's the beauty of our system, is that a prosecutor doesn't have the final say. It's the people of the community. And if they think that it's okay, that if they think, the members of the jury, all of them unanimously believe that it's not okay to take the life of someone who has broken into your house in the middle of the night while you're there with his family, attempting to kill you, then it is what it is. Maybe you shouldn't live in Massachusetts. That's just the way I see it. I mean, yeah, there's some nuance in this case, obviously, and that's why the jury will decide it all. And that's obviously why prosecutors believe that this was homicide. But me, like you, and like the members of the jury, we all have our own interpretation of what's appropriate, what's acceptable, and what we should be allowed to do when someone breaks into our house. So today, a big day for this defendant, Brian Kemp. He took the stand in court. There he is testifying. And we know he's also was interviewed by police on video, and we've seen that video as well. And he tells his story. You know, the man he shot and killed isn't there to tell his story, but he did break into the house. We know he didn't live there. But this is the trial now. This is the case. So let's take a look at him and his body language. Joining me, body language expert, author of the New York Times best-selling book, You Can't Lie to Me. Janine Driver's back with us from her fancy studio. Great to see you, Janine.
Nice to see you, Vinnie. It's a new studio. Tonight's the christening.
This is awesome.
I'm a
Okay.
Massachusetts girl. Now, I'm a Massachusetts girl. I live in Virginia now, but I think this is messed up.
Yeah, I do too. But, you know, a lot of what I'm saying, though, is based upon Brian Kemp's story. So I want to take a look at his story and then have you give us some analysis. So let's start here. In his police interview, being asked about how many shots he took at the victim in this case.
How many times do you shoot?
Once, twice, I don't know. Maybe twice.
Okay.
I don't know.
So you said you think it was one shot, maybe two shots?
Yeah, like I said, maybe two. I don't know, I have this thing where my gun not going off. And I don't know, it's hard to put like things in a chronological order, like 1, 2, 3. I don't know.
So, Janine, keep taking your notes because I'm going to play a couple more pieces of his testimony now so we can take a look at the complete picture here talking about the shots. Here he is on direct examination. Let's take a listen.
As best you can, again, as best you can you describe the way that you were thinking specifically with regard to the shootings?
I was having a hard time defining two separate times where I shot him.
When you're answering that way, as best you remember, are you trying to deceive?
No.
Now, I've got one more piece here. This is the cross-examination, and this is always, I believe, the most important. Here he's being challenged about all of this. And let's remember, the shots are about 8.5 minutes apart.
So you're saying that when you were speaking with the police for an hour and 8 minutes that morning, this is when you say you were having a hard time defining the 2 times I shot him.
Yes.
And at the time you were speaking with them at the barracks, your mind was just so jumbled that you couldn't remember standing 15 feet away from him and shooting him in the top of his head with your non-dominant hand? You had no memory of that?
Yes.
So you're saying that his eyes were looking down at the ground when you shot him?
Correct.
You told the police that you weren't sure if you'd shot Mr. Latender once or twice, correct?
Correct.
And that wasn't true, was it?
It is what I believed at the time.
You told police that if you did shoot him twice, it was in rapid succession. You remember that?
Yes.
And that wasn't true either, was it?
That is what I believed at the time.
So at the time you were speaking with police, you could not remember there being over an 8-minute gap between the time you shot him in the torso to the time you shot him in the head.
That's correct.
But you remembered everything else in between, didn't you? You remember going upstairs to get clothes on, correct?
Correct.
You remember getting some shoes for Brooke and bringing them outside, correct?
Correct.
You told them that detail, am I right?
Yes.
You told the police that you called Brian Campanelli, correct?
Yes.
So all these other details in that 8-minute and 37-second span, you remembered.
Yes.
And when they asked you about the second shot, suddenly jumbly, blurry memory?
Not suddenly, but yes.
The police specifically asked you if, when you went back into the house, you shot the gun a second time, correct?
Yes.
And you said you hadn't done that.
Correct.
And that wasn't true.
That is what I believed at the time.
So you believe that you hadn't shot twice?
I was unclear whether I had shot him once or twice, and I believed that if I did shoot him twice, that it was one event in rapid succession. That is what I believed at the time.
Okay, Janine, what do you think?
Oh my gosh. Okay, lots happening. Number one, he has his baseline of posture. That's just his baseline, right? The slouched posture. We saw that even in the police interviews. Let's go backwards here. We just heard I. I statements are accountability. He's saying, I remembered that. I thought that. Oftentimes where people are being not truthful, Vinnie, and you at home, they'll say you are under stress, you have anxiety, you've got fight or flight happening, you don't remember all the details in the moment. He doesn't say you. I hear that a lot with criminals. You do the best you can. I hear, which is accountability. I believe him. So let's start with that. Also, he said no, and we've talked about this before on your show, Vinnie, and you at home if you're listening. No is the strongest denial. And we heard it also in the interview, the police interview right out of the gate, being asked these yes or no questions. Now let's play devil's advocate. You might say, well, what else would you say? Liars will often convince. Truthful people try to convey. Liars try to convince. So, did you do this? Absolutely not. Never. What kind of person would I be if I did something like that? I knew you were going to ask me this. I'd have to be stupid to do something like this. I swear to God, I wouldn't do something like that. We don't hear any of that. This is the baseline of someone telling the truth. And if you've ever been in a traumatic situation, you can forget elements. A friend of mine, Teresa Stoop, was at that bombing at the Atlanta abortion clinic years ago during the Olympics. The second bomb went off. She's standing right there. She was interviewed. What color was the smoke? She said there was no smoke, and she's an ATF agent. She was a resident agent in charge. And then she watches herself in the news, and she walks through a billow of smoke. Under high stress and anxiety, we can miss an 8-minute gap. Now, if there were other tells here of deception, then I might say, did he really forget it? He's being congruent. In the beginning with that first video you showed me, Vinnie, and I was taking notes, you saw me, you caught me, is he squinted his eyes. And if try squinting, like you at home, just squint. When do we squint? We squint when we are doubting what we're hearing or we're uncomfortable. So you can see him, even in the first interview, he's like, I think it was 2 times. He himself is uncomfortable trying to figure it out. He didn't give us, it was absolutely 2 times. Pay attention to those definitives when we hear them. Absolutely not. He's not combative. This is, to me, a man who's telling the truth. And sometimes, you know, Vinnie, I weigh in, I go, 50-50. I say here, this is a man who's telling the truth, a young man who's telling the truth.
Now, there's another portion of his story that's significant, and that's because the 8 minutes, right? He goes back to check on him. Here he is in the police interview first, and then on cross-examination talking about returning to see him or check on him, which is the time, apparently, when the second shot is fired.
And then you went back into the house.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Was there any more shots fired when you went back into the house?
No.
Okay. Did you check on the individual?
No, I left him there.
You told the police that you did not go back into the kitchen to check on Mr. Latender, correct?
I did not go back into the kitchen.
My question is, you told the police, they asked you, did you go back inside the kitchen to check on Jonathan? Remember them asking you that?
Yes.
And you said you didn't?
Yes.
And you're saying technically you didn't because you stayed 15 feet away from him as you shot him?
In a separate room that was not the kitchen.
So you were parsing your answers? You had the mental clarity to parse your answers like that?
No.
How about that part of the testimony and his story?
Okay, hey, first of all, these are questions interviewers should be asking very clearly. You know, if I'm retired law enforcement ATF, and if I said, hey, what was your relationship with your husband? And you might have said, oh, we decided 2 years ago to get divorced. And the cop often writes down divorce 2 years ago. No, I didn't say we got divorced. I said we decided to get divorced. The word decided has hidden meaning. There are 38 words, Vinnie, that have hidden meaning that will change your life if you understand what they are. So right here, that's up to the investigator. What do you mean by that? You didn't go in the room. Where did you go? Paint a picture. If I'm a TV movie director and I'm making the movie, how far did you go? When did you look? Get details. These are basic questions that we are taught in law enforcement to ask. Now here, he is looking up. Looking up is visual, and he sticks his tongue out. That could be an indicator of deception. When we stick our tongue out, it's high stress. It's a high level pacifier. It tells me the stress has spiked in this part of the story for sure. And it's not enough for me to say he's lying. I think I can see how someone says you're parsing your words. Maybe we need to get very clear. You know, let's go back to Bill Clinton. Did you cheat on her, right? What did you do this thing with Monica Lewinsky? Be very clear on our language in law enforcement, because you're going to end up in court with a different kind of story than what might have really happened.
Final piece I want to show you here is answering an important question on why he shot him, and there's one line in here that is very significant. Let's listen.
And what was he doing at that time?
Coming at me.
Okay.
With a shotgun barrel.
Okay.
And I was not going to get hit in the head with a shotgun barrel again inside my own house. You know, I tried to scare him with the muzzle loader. Didn't work. Tried to wrestle me for it. Was scared for my life then. Wrestled him over the shotgun. And then, sorry. I hope if I ever did that, somebody would put me down. That's all I hope. You know what I mean?
What do you think of that moment?
Well, it's so ironic. It's ironic that he's doing this. This is the first time I saw this clip, Vinnie, and you at home. I just was analyzing Jussie Smollett today, and I was showing a student of mine that how to tell that Jussie Smollett was lying with that whole Chicago, staged hate crime thing. And one of the ways that you can tell is when Jussie Smollett was being interviewed on television in these morning shows, and he said, an attacker came up from behind me and he started kicking me in my back. He did no illustrators. He didn't turn around and a guy came at me from behind. He started punching me in the back. When we tell stories and they are truthful, Vinnie, we don't just sit there with our hands folded. We recreate the story. And we see this right here with Brian Camp. He says he came out with the shotgun right there, right? And he's coming right at me. These are called illustrators. When someone is telling the truth, the illustrator happens a half a second before the words. This is congruent of someone telling a real story, of someone telling the truth. Go watch this. Viewer at home, watch this. Go watch the interview that Jussie Smollett did where he talked about having a noose around his neck and two guys kicking him in his back and beating the crap out of him. He called it literally a tussle. Let me tell you a story. When someone beats the crap out of you, you don't repeat the story and call it a tussle. This man here is what I believe is an example of telling the truth. I'll weigh this guy up against Jussie Smollett anytime to show the difference between a lie and reality.
It was more like a hustle than a tussle, I think.
That was good. That was good.
Janine Driver from the brand new JanineDriver.com studio. Great to see you tonight. Have a great weekend. All right. When we come back, we're going to bring in our think tank, see what they have to say about this testimony, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates a married father of three heads out on a fishing trip but never comes home. His overturned kayak is found in a lake, but his body gone. And now everyone is wondering if Ryan Borgward faked his own death to start a new life. Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
You told the police that if you ever did something like he had done, you'd hope someone would put you down too, correct?
Yes.
So is that what you believe? You put him down?
No.
Ryan Camp taking the stand in his own defense. Self-defense is what he is claiming. His girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, in the middle of the night, breaks into their home. They have two children with them. He shoots him twice after a really violent attack by the intruder. I mean, his eyes being gouged out. You saw the broken wrist, everything else that was happening. After the fight, one shot, then a second shot 8 minutes later, and that's why prosecutors have charged him with manslaughter. So let's bring in our think tank for tonight. Joining us, former senior homicide prosecutor, founder of Villalona Law, Bernarda Villalona. Also with us, Chief Public Defender for Oakland County, Michigan. She represented the Oxford High School shooter. Paulette Lofton is with us. And the attorney who represented Johnny Depp in his defamation case, fellow of the American College Trial Lawyers, Mr. Ben Chu is with us. All right. Great to have everyone here. Great to see you. Bernarda, let me begin with you. If we're in Florida, by the way, we would have no programming. We could take tonight off. But we're not. We're in Massachusetts. And he shoots and kills a home intruder who broke into his home where his girlfriend is and two young children, attempted to kill him. And now the man who was defending himself and his family is facing manslaughter charges. Your thoughts about his testimony?
I think the prosecution has a tough job here. It's not going to be an easy case for them because I think the defendant did a great job while he was testifying. He has a good chance of beating the case on self-defense, but also juggling possibly even jury nullification, being that it's the ex-boyfriend of his current girlfriend who broke into his house. His house. That's the most important thing. And I think jurors are going to put themselves in the defendant's shoes and be like, look, it would have been acceptable for me to try to protect myself as well. I'm not concerned about the 8 minutes. This is a huge issue for the prosecution.
You know, Paulette, a lot of times when we have self-defense cases, sometimes the defendant flees the scene. You know, you don't hear anything about self-defense until, you know, the opening statement, and all of a sudden, oh, it's self-defense? Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. This is like the opposite of that. Like from Jump Street, they're calling 911. He's on the front lawn, hands up, you know. The 911 operator telling him to go back and check on the intruder. Like all of this stuff is, I am shocked that we are in a trial right here. I don't get it.
I am also shocked. I think you're correct. In most cases where I represent someone on a self-defense, we're claiming self-defense, but they left the scene and now they're saying it's self-defense at the time we're there for trial. This is completely different. I mean, he did what you are supposed to do. He didn't shoot the gun the very first time he could have. He told the gentleman, you need to leave the house. You need to get out. He didn't leave. They struggled over one gun. Then it went to two guns. Then that gun broke. Then goes for a different gun. Then the gentleman is on his floor. He's still communicating with his girlfriend who's on the phone with 911. They're waiting and waiting and waiting for the police. And then it's the 911 operator, the state police, that orders him to go back in the house and give further details. And that's when the second shot goes off. So I think all of the steps that he took, the fact that he waited there, I think that gives so much credibility to his story that he has told from day one, that this isn't what he wanted to happen, but he simply ran out of options. He gave this gentleman so many opportunities to just leave, and he did what he needed to do to make sure that him and his family stayed safe. You know,
Ben Chu, to me, this is a slippery slope case that prosecutors have brought. And I'm a former prosecutor. People have been watching me for decades, know the way I see most of these cases. This one is, to me, an outlier of the cases that we normally see on court TV. If you start going after people who are in their own homes for what happens to someone who breaks into their house and attacks them in the middle of the night, that is a slippery slope that I don't think a prosecutor should be anywhere near. But the good news, right, Ben, is that the jury gets the final say here.
Yeah, Vinny, I agree with Bernarda, Paulette, and you. I think we have unanimity on this. I mean, if you've ever had your house invaded at night, it's an incredibly disorienting experience. And this is a 24-year-old man who, as you say, was defending 2 children and his girlfriend at the time. This prosecution, in my view, should never have been brought, and I think it will be a prompt acquittal.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if he knew who the guy was. I mean, I think at some point he kind of is putting everything together, but when he's up in the middle of the night, he's naked at the time he's being attacked. This to me, this needs to be the bright line rule part of our law. Like, you've got to be able to defend yourself in your own home. You can't be like, cracking open the law books to figure out what I can do to protect myself. I think it's outrageous. But Bernard, I want you to take a listen to part of his direct examination here. This was kind of interesting. Let's take a listen.
What were the things he was saying to you while he was on the ground?
He said multiple times in a row, "I need an attorney." And then he said multiple times in a row, "I am going to kill you."
Okay, are both of those threatening? Like, he's threatening to get a lawyer, but he's also threatening to kill him. I mean, what do you think the significance of the alleged statements being made by the intruder/victim in the case?
I mean, you can spin it to say, I need to get an attorney because I'm going to kill you. Like, you can spin it. I think the defense can spin it to the sense of, look how aggressive this man was. Look how mad he was. Look how violent he was, because he's telling this guy that he needs an attorney because, you know what, I'm going to kill you. That's what I'm going to do with you. That's what I'm going to do. So I think it works in the defense favor if the defense attorney can actually sell it to this jury. Either way, I'm still with what I said previously. Like, I think this guy has a good chance of walking on self-defense. If not self-defense, I also say jury nullification. He has both of that working in his favor, especially when you look at his injuries. Look at him giving that videotape statement, and look how blood is still stained on the side of his face. Come on, look at his injuries. He gave up a physical fight and ultimately resulted to using a deadly weapon because deadly force was being threatened against him.
Right, and again, just to draw a contrast to some of the self-defense cases we've seen here on Court TV through the years, in some of them, the person claiming self-defense initiates the confrontation. This couldn't be more different than that. He's naked, asleep in bed when this man breaks into his home. But this is another interesting little piece of information here, Paulette. Take a listen.
You didn't because you stayed 15 feet away from him as you shot him?
In a separate room, that was not the kitchen.
So you were parsing your answers? You had the mental clarity to parse your answers like that?
No.
You told the police that if you ever did something like he had done, you'd hope someone would put you down too, correct?
Yes.
So is that what you believe? You put him down?
No.
You didn't tell the police that after shooting Mr. Latender one time, you took photos of him, correct?
Correct.
Were you hiding that detail from the police?
No.
You told them that you'd used your phone to call Mr. Campanelli, correct?
Yes.
You didn't think it was relevant that you had taken a picture of dying Jonathan Latender with your phone?
No.
Why'd you hide that from them?
I did not hide that from them.
All right, Paulette, prosecutor making a big deal about the photo he took and didn't tell police about. What does it mean?
So I do think the picture taking was a little bit strange, but obviously he had just been through an extreme struggle, had been hit in the head, had a broken arm. So I don't think he was thinking clearly. Obviously, I've seen this happen many times. The prosecutor has to pick apart all of the differences from the first interview to when the defendant is testifying in court. That's their job. They have to pick out all of the differences. So was he specifically asked if he took a picture? He wasn't. And I don't think he was leaving that detail out on purpose. So I think it's kind of a stretch to say he was leaving that out. He wasn't asked that. Obviously, like we've all talked about, look at the condition he is in when he is giving this interview. He's obviously not with a clear mind. He just went through such a traumatic experience, knowing that he had to shoot someone twice. That person has now died, and now he is being interrogated at the police station. So obviously, I don't think all of the trains of thought are flowing like they may when he's sitting at home talking on the couch. I definitely don't think he was hiding that.
Also, really hasn't been sleeping. I mean, woken up in the middle of the night with the home invasion, and then everything that happened. Then he's got to get the medical stuff taken care of, and then the interview. All right, good news. Bernarda, Paulette, Ben staying with us. When we come back, the Menendez brothers, some new details and a big day coming up Monday.
.com. I have to tell you unequivocally that we don't have a universal agreement. There are people in the office that strongly believe that the Menendez brothers should stay in prison the rest of their life, and they do not believe that they were molested. And there are people in the office that strongly believe that they should be released immediately.
All right, that's outgoing LA DA George Gascon talking about the Menendez brothers. So let's talk about the Menendez brothers and what their status is. That was years ago during their trial. That one was a hung jury, actually hung juries, because each brother had their own jury, but they were convicted when the cameras weren't inside the courtroom. So they've got 3 roads to freedom. Let's take a look at them. So the 3 roads to freedom for the Menendez brothers: clemency from the governor, resentencing on a motion brought by the DA, the prosecution, that's scheduled for December 11th right now, and a habeas corpus hearing, which is scheduled for Monday. So let's start with clemency. Here's a statement from the governor's office, Governor Gavin Newsom. The governor respects the role of the DA, excuse me, in ensuring justice is served, and recognizes, I got a little throat thing, excuse me, I don't know if I can talk. Oh boy, I'm getting all choked up. Back. Let me get through this. Can you read it, folks? Did you read it while I was gone? Thank you. That's from the governor. The new DA spoke to Ted Rowlands right here on Court TV, talking about the resentencing.
In order to actually be informed of this case, you've got to review thousands of pages of prison records that I don't have access to at this point. You should review the thousands of pages of transcripts from 2 months-long trials. You should talk to the prosecutors, law enforcement, the defense counsel, and any victim member, your family members that want to speak to you. And only at that point will you have the factual record to then apply to the legal standards, render an opinion, and defend that opinion in court. And it lands on my desk the week of December 2nd when I start. Then there is this resentencing issue. Now, the way resentencing works is that on December 11th, there'll be a hearing. If I'm ready to proceed and have done that extensive factual and legal review, we'll proceed. If not, I might ask for some additional time, but I've got 34 years of criminal justice experience with hundreds of cases under my belt. I can read a record expeditiously, even if a lengthy one, and be ready as soon as possible, whether it's December 11th or soon thereafter. Let's assume for a moment that the judge were to grant the resentencing motion. Effectively, what that would do is throw the issue to the parole board. They would then have a parole hearing. If the parole board, for instance, were to grant parole, then it goes to the governor's desk. He has 120 days to either agree with it, send it back to the full parole board, or reverse and keep the Menendezes behind bars.
So as you can hear from the new DA, things are a little complicated. By the way, now you know why I wasn't here on Tuesday night. Okay, so now there's this hearing on Monday. What's the basis of this motion brought by the Menendez brothers to be released or get a new trial? It begins with this letter from Eric, excuse me, to his cousin, verifying the cousin's testimony from the first trial that was a hung jury. This letter was found after the cousin passed away, and it basically verifies the sexual abuse. There's also a new allegation by a former member of the group Menudo against Jose Menendez, the father. The allegation of sexual assault by Jose Menendez, by Roy Rosello. There we go. Okay, so that's what we have. Let's bring in our think tank so they can talk, and I won't collapse here on the air. Anyway, Bernardo Villalona, Paulette Lofton, Ben Chu with us. All right, let me start with you, Ben. So Monday's a big day. There's a new DA in town. This habeas motion was brought, but it's not brought by the DA. It's brought by the brothers themselves. What do you expect to happen Monday? Will this thing go forward? Will the judge set the Menendez brothers free?
I think so. I think all the momentum is going in that direction. They've served decades of time in prison, and I think there's sufficient new evidence to kind of mitigate the sentence. So I do think ultimately they will be walking free.
Bernardo, do you think Monday's the day?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I think the judge would have had an easier way out if he had the backing of the prosecutor making the recommendation of the new prosecutor that's coming in. So it's going to be tough. But I think the judge also has another avenue of actually releasing these brothers, and that's by vacating the murder conviction and finding and upholding instead the lesser included of the manslaughter conviction. And with the manslaughter conviction, they will be eligible to be released. So I think that would be the easiest way out. Also, he can have another avenue in the sense that he grants a new trial, but to grant a new trial, then that doesn't necessarily mean that the brothers are going to be released, is that they will be facing a new trial and have to go through this all over again.
So, Paulette, let me ask you, is this really earth-shattering new information, though? Like, I get it, the letter, right? So the letter, not everyone's buying that the letter is legit, right? Because I don't know if Eric mentioned the letter at his trial, because the cousin was there to testify. I don't think the cousin ever mentioned the letter. After the cousin dies, the mother finds it years later. Like, it may be legit, it may not be legit. I don't know. But is it a big deal because the sex abuse was known? It wasn't allowed to be used in the second trial, but it was known. And the part that Jose Menendez is accused now, years later, by one of the members of Menudo, the little boy band, Menudo, is that shocking too? Like, none of this goes to the, like, sometimes new information will be about the actual crime that had happened. This more goes towards the why of it. So does this move the needle on Monday?
I don't know if this is that earth-shattering. I think you just hit the nail on the head by saying it doesn't really go towards the actual charges, maybe towards the explanation of why, of what happened and what they did. But again, I've been listening, and I know there are a lot of people saying that that letter may not be accurate. And all of these things definitely could have been brought or could have been addressed at the time of the trial. I agree with Ben and Bernard. I do think something's going to happen. I just don't know if it's going to be at that hearing on Monday. I don't think it's going to be clemency. I think the governor will probably let the new DA kind of figure out exactly what needs to happen. I don't think anyone wants to ruffle the feathers of an entire DA's office by coming out and saying that there's not an agreement within the office. That's very uncommon. I've never seen that before. Usually they're unified in whatever their decision is going to be. So I do think there's going to be a resolution and that they're going to get out. I just don't think it's going to be the habeas relief on Monday.
You know, Ben, you mentioned the momentum, and a lot of that's coming from the public. A lot of it's coming from celebrities. This is Los Angeles. That's the town industry, is celebrity. Do you think the judge senses that as well? Do you think that, plays into all of this? Because judges, like everyone else, they're human.
I think, Vinny, that it does play into it, especially in Los Angeles. There are other jurisdictions that I typically practice in where that's less of a factor, but I think it is a factor.
Bernarda, how is the new DA comes in, right? Like, this was all sort of around for a while, and then just before the election, all of a sudden the DA makes this such a big issue, like just before the election. The new guy is in, he's very experienced. Obviously, everyone has some familiarity with the case and with the Menendez brothers. What do you think the DA's office does on Monday?
So this is the issue, is that remember when District Attorney Gascon, he gave his press conference, he even said during his press conference that his office is split as to the recommendation of what should happen with these Menendez brothers. So you already have that contention within the DA's office. The thing is that the old DA, Gascon, he's still in office, so he'll probably come in doing the habeas corpus and probably just defer at this point to the new DA who's coming in December, because there's not enough time to undergo a hearing.
Bernard and Paulette, Ben, thanks so much for picking me up. I'm going to work on this. When we come back, something else you need to know.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
It's the biggest story that we're covering.
He is the boogeyman.
Lori Daybell.
She said, I will have you destroyed.
She's got another murder trial coming up.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. It's Diddy. The judge postpones yet another bail decision. He is trying to get out, folks. He's trying to get out pre-trial because he knows he may never get out again. Next week, we'll get that decision. In the meantime, Diddy says his rights were violated when 19 pages of written notes were seized from his jail. However, the assistant U.S. attorney argued that nothing in the 19 pages was privileged communication. Under a handwritten heading of things to do, there were phone numbers, notes about personal finances, family birthdays, inspirational quotes. There was also evidence of continued obstruction by Combs, including details about efforts to bribe or find dirt on government witnesses. Wow. We'll keep our eye on Diddy for you, folks. You know we do. All right. Please take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child. This is little Exodus Ramirez, 15 years old, missing out of West Palm Beach, Florida since November 5th. If you see Exodus, this is what you need to do. Pick up the phone, make a call, 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the West Palm Beach Police Department down in Florida. That phone number is on your screen. Make the call, make a difference. Let's see if we can get Exodus to a safe place tonight. I'm Vinnie Politan. Don't go anywhere. We've got another hour of live true crime right here on your front row seat to justice. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.